Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the No Laying Up Golf Podcast. My name is Randy. I am joined today by Cody McBride, and we have a quick show reacting to the Solheim Cup picks just announced this week. And then we have a great interview on the back half with U.S. captain Stacy Lewis. So, first things first, Cody, did you make it back all right? Any travel issues getting home from Scotland?
Very safe, buddy. It was smooth for me. I know it wasn't for you, but first trips I've had in a bit where there's like zero delays. We're actually out early, arrived early, baggage, everything, you name it. It was so smooth.
Wonderful to hear. I had a flight canceled, but once I got rebooked the morning I was supposed to leave, everything was smooth. And I got to talk to TC. I don't want to turn this into an airports pod, but there was a tailwind going from east to west. Our captain on our flight called it a very unusual tailwind that got us in an hour early. So,
I know
uh,
it's weird too because usually everything's so dependable when it comes to that. And you know what else is dependable? That's Yeti and their sponsorship of our LPGA Tour products, man. They ride with
you're
us.
too good.
They're built to last. They're durable. Everything is double insulated, you name it. It's I don't want to call it over engineered, but it has so much horsepower packed into every single product that they make. We want to thank them and their longstanding support not only to No Laying Up, but to our LPGA content throughout this year. And we had a great film that we just debuted last week over on our YouTube channel. Please, everybody, go check that out. Special feature from the mastermind of DJ Pyhowski about the old course in reverse. Please go check that out on our YouTube. You'll find it on our socials. But again, a huge shout out to Yeti. You can find their complete product line and more at yeti.com. Big. I don't think we got a lot of surprises here.
No, I don't think we did either. So let's just go through, Cody. Let's start with Team USA. Just to catch people up, the US team, 7 automatic qualifiers on points, and those women are Nelly Corda, Lilia Vu, Lauren Coughlin, Ali Ewing, Allison Corpuz, Megan Kang, and Andrea Lee. And then the qualification takes the next 2 highest ranked players based on current world ranking. And so those 2 qualifying were Rose Zhang and Allison Lee. And then that leaves 3 captains picks. We knew Lexi was going to be one. That was, set in stone pretty much. So no surprise there. Jennifer Kupcho, I don't think is a surprise. She's played on, this will be her 3rd appearance in a Solheim Cup. So she's becoming a regular part of the team. And so I think if there was any surprise, Cody, it was that last captain's pick, Sarah Schmelzel, who will be making her Solheim Cup debut. She earns that captain's pick. The only surprise really is Angel Yin not getting a pick, but I understand it. So let me just stop right there, I guess. And were you surprised? What was your initial reaction upon learning these captains' picks?
Well, I was not surprised at the ones that you laid out already. I think that Lexi, we've known that for a long time. There's no way that she wasn't going to be on this team. It doesn't really matter what form she really was going to be in. She was going to be in Virginia to represent the United States. Gen Cup show, I get it, makes a lot of sense. I really think it came down to this final pick. And Sarah Schmelzel's just played really, really good golf. And I can see if you look at the overall points list, so where the main 7 selects come from, Angel's sitting on number 8. She was only 1 spot behind Andrea Lee. Then you have Rose and Allison Lee being at 9 and 10 on that list. Sarah Schmelzel's at 11. Then you got Jen Cupshow, Cheyenne Knight, and then Lexi. So that's basically the top 14. Sitting at that 15 spot is Alexa Pano. And I thought, honestly, that Alexa was going to get a little bit better look than she did. I thought she had, a great season last year as a rookie season. Got a win this week basically over in Ireland. She won the Women's Irish Open, and then put together really a heck of a year. Has had some low points, some missed cuts along the way, but overall rounding into form has had great, showings at major championships, specifically last week at the AIG Women's Open. I mean, she was right in the thick of things, and she's a dog, and she's got a lot of grit in her. But I also understand that she's 20 or 21. I know it was just her birthday.
20. Yeah,
20.
20.
And we're gonna have a lot of golf left for her. And I know she's gonna make future teams. I just thought that maybe they might put her here to kind of, her and Rose get on really good. And I thought that maybe it would be a good person to match Rose with. Now, when we look at it and the curious case of Angel Yin, I can say this from a fan of Angel Yin from the outsider's perspective that, yeah, I'm bummed, man. She brought a lot. She brings a ton of spunk, personality, you name it, to every single one of these team events that she's been in so far. It's just you can't really argue with the fact that her game just hasn't been there, man.
Well, and she was dealing with an injury, which really put her behind the 8 ball to start the year. That was a shame. She didn't even make her season debut really until, I believe, match play, so we're talking end of April. And then didn't really play well through most of the summer. Now has started to find form. She finished tied for second in Portland a few weeks back, and then her next start just finished tied for 10th at the Open, which we know proper conditions there. So I think it would have taken. It feels like Sarah Schmelzer was the safe pick for Stacy Lewis.
Yeah, 100%. And something that she can justify not only with results, but also with the KPMG performance insights.
So what is Sarah profile? What's her what does she do well? Who what type of player do you think she'll be paired with?
Well, I think she's really friendly with the Allie Ewing rookie, our rookie LC, but really what I don't want to say she really excels so much at one particular thing. She's just like rock solid at every single possible strokes gain category. She's not giving anything away. Like the highest ranking wise she's at is strokes gain total. She's 29th on the year, sitting right at 0.99 or excuse me, plus 0.99. Her worst category ranking is 71st, and that's putting, but like that is far, far, far from being a bad putter. She makes buckets and buckets of putts. Like when she gets a hot putter, it's truly unstoppable. She can take it deep and she's not afraid of going low. And I think honestly, she's just like you need these people who are like just steady as it goes. And there's not really, she doesn't really get too high. She doesn't really get too low. She's definitely like, there's been a couple of very viral moments where she's kind of taking it out of herself from hitting bad shots. And if you look at the results of those bad shots after she's like dog cussing herself, it's, they're like 20 feet from the pin. So her expectations of herself are extremely high, but I also like that. She feels like she always plays like she's an underdog. And I think making this team and being this pick because she was right there on points, she was going to this is not a surprise. Like she was going to make this team. And I think the only way that she wouldn't have made this team if there was an additional player that showed some form like Alexi, and I think that the only person that really could have been would have been like Danielle Kang. If Danielle started playing good this later half in the summer, because there's no one else that you could really justify taking the spot away and away from Sarah Schmezel just based off her results.
So I want to do the devil's advocate, and I'll just say I was surprised that Angel was not chosen for this team. I guess I was thinking with Angel being 5-3-1 all time in Solheim Cup, good experience in Solheim Cups. I believe she was 2-0-1 last year in Spain. And in this very recent run of form, I thought that was somebody that you want on the team. Now, reading between the lines, and I will say Angel's been active on social media. It feels like maybe Angel isn't as good of a fit in the team room as Sarah. And I don't want to say that too much because I don't know. It's just kind of like putting together pieces between stuff that Angel reacted to on Instagram this week and whatnot. So I guess I was a little surprised. And I'll say, going back to this 2024 team, so how is it different than last year's team in Spain? You mentioned Danielle Kang. So there are essentially 3 players out, 3 players in. Danielle Kang is out, Cheyenne Knight is out, and Angel Yin are out. Those 3 women last year in Spain combined to go 6-3-1. They earned 6.5 of the 14 US points. So coming in are 2 rookies, Lauren Coughlin, Sarah Schmelzel, and then Allison Lee has qualified. She has prior Solheim experience. She carries a 1-3 record from her one appearance. And so I feel like when we start thinking about, is this team better or not this year? It could be better, but there's a lot of pressure on Lauren and Sarah to earn those points that Danielle and Cheyenne and Angel earned last year in Spain. And I think that will be very interesting. And then, of course, your Nelly, your Lilia, like the US needs really good performances from its stars. What do you agree or disagree with there? And I guess bottom line question, do you think this US team is better than it was last year heading into Spain?
Well, it's hard to say that it's not with, Lilia Vu, Nelly Corda headlining your team, specifically the form that they've shown this year compared to last. Now, obviously, we could say a lot of that is, wins coming at the first half of this year kind of petered out since then, but both of them very much in contention there. Allison Corpuz has kind of fallen off, but Ali Ewing is somebody who's, you know, made herself very present over the last 2 months. Megan Kang, again, kind of fly by night. I That's a great question, Big. I don't know if I could say that this team is in better form than the team that they took last year. But I also know last year there was huge doubts with the fact that Lexi Thompson was on that team barely automatically. That a captain's pick wasn't because of all the points that she had earned the year prior.
Yeah.
And look at the performance that she put on there. Now, I agree with you that there is going to be a ton of pressure, not only on the rookies that are on this team, but the other ones, and welcoming back Allison Lee. And I think Allison Lee, she's had a pretty good run of events. We don't really get to see her that often on the LPGA tour. She almost outside the majors, like, she plays her majority of her schedule on the LET. And that's because she lost access on the LPGA tour for multiple years, but finally, dug her way back out of it. She's all the way up to 25th in the world on the Rolex rankings. It's going to be very, very interesting because I have the exact opposite feelings that I have for the US team when I think of Team Europe. And I'm like, oh my Lord, here comes this European squad again. Are they going to make this? They're basically going for 4 in a row. I mean, 19, 21, and then last year retained it at Fink
Mhm.
and Courtesan. The last time that they lost was out in Iowa in 2017. And
Yeah.
I think that the team that the European squad has formed is it might not world ranking wise be as powerful, but this is the same thing we talk about when it comes to US versus Europe Ryder Cup. I mean, the Europeans got that dog in them, and it doesn't matter what number they have hung next to their name. It's something that their captains are able to bring out of them that makes them play so much better. And I feel like running through a brick wall right now for this European squad.
Well, let's talk about the European squad real quick. So they take the top 2 off of the LET points list, and that was Charlie Hall and Esther Henselite, earning auto spots that way. And then they take the next 6 best based on world ranking. And so you have Celine Boutier, Maya Stark, Lynn Grant, Madeline Sagstrom, Leona Maguire, and Carlotta Saganda, leaving 4 captains picks for Suzanne Pedersen. And so I think 3 of these are, again, it's kind of similar to the US side. I think 3 are not surprising at all. And then the 4th one, we were like, we'll see who it is. And so the ones that I feel like weren't surprising at all, you have Georgia Hall, who has played in 4 prior Solheim Cups. Like, of course, you're taking her. You have Anna Nordquist. A little surprised maybe she's going to be a vice captain again. She was vice captain last year, but Suzanne is tapping her to play. She's got all kinds of experience, having played in 8 Solheims prior to this. And then the other one that I don't think is a surprise, just because of what we know about how well they mesh personality wise, is Denmark's Emily Christine Pedersen. She is somebody with Solheim experience. She has, she never lights it on fire. She hasn't yet week to week on the LPGA tour. But again, somebody that she rose to the occasion last year. She played good golf when she had to in Spain. And so that left the fourth captain's pick. And I think the names that were kind of in the mix, if you will, were, a Linnea Strom, a Alexandra Forsterling, Gemma Dryburgh. But in the end, it went to Albane Valenzuela, a Swiss 26-year-old. She'll be making her first Solheim Cup appearance. And so let me ask you that, Cody. Any surprises, any issues with the four Team Europe captains picks?
No, I mean, it's funny because we can sit here and you can poke a million holes in Emily's pick, but she's going to be right there. She's missed a cut in almost every big tournament so far this year, but that does not matter when you're talking about Emily and how she fits into this team. I really like the Albane pick. I think she had really good showing, put herself in contention at the final major at the year, the AIG Women's Open. She's had good form at the Olympics, made her presence known there. She played well, finished, I think, top 20 at the Scottish. I would say the only two real blemishes there. I know she missed the cut at Evian as well as Founders, but made cut at US Women's Open. I think she's just somebody that gets along really well with the squad. And when you're looking for somebody that can go out and go deep, kind of the same version of what we have come to know from Caroline Headwall. Albane is that.
She's a really good ball striker. Her KPMG Performance Insights page, she's just not a great putter. She gives away 0.21 shots putting per round, but makes up for it in ball striking. And so you're right. She's somebody that you can pair with a putter. I think she's good in those either foursomes or four ball matches. And yeah, she has showed up. She hasn't really been front page of the leaderboard on Sunday, but she's somebody that you kind of see around leaderboards at a lot of the bigger events. And I'm excited to see her in this competition and for the world to kind of get a better sense of what she's about. I will say Team Europe. So the only two changes from their team from last year. You have Gemma Dryburgh, who went 0-2, and Carolyn Headwall. I almost am glad Carolyn Headwall is not on this year's team because it leaves her Solheim Cup career on such a high note. What she did in Sunday singles in that charge to earn a point last year was just incredible. So those are the two that will not be on the team that were on the team. And then, of course, Esther Hensleit and Albane Valenzuela are both in. They're both rookies. And so you were saying, Cody, I'm with you. It's crazy. Through a lot of this season, I'm like, is Team Europe, are they any good or what are we doing? But all of a sudden, we get closer to Solheim Cup week and, Leona Maguire starts playing a little better golf and it feels like this team is gelling and whatever they have going as a team, as a group in the locker room, it just is really strong. And I feel like once again, this team probably will play above just what their numbers are on paper, and it's getting better. I don't know. I'm like talking myself all of a sudden into this Team Europe. It just seems like they are in a good spot heading into Robert Trent Jones Golf Club here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, you identified the ball striking there on a couple of them, but it's really about driving accuracy. There's a lot of water out at Robert Trent Jones, and it's going to take extreme accuracy, especially. I would say this is probably more of a strength on the European side versus the US side. US side gets a little shaky outside of like the top half of our team. But overall, I mean, from top to bottom, I think driving performance and not just distance, but overall accuracy is a lot well suited on Team Europe there. And people who know and have a little bit of insight here when it comes to drivers, and that's Titleist and the new GT driver line now available at
Did it
golf
again,
shops
folks.
worldwide.
He did it again.
With Titleist GT drivers, speed is only the beginning. With a powerful new engine, speed is gained but also controlled, meaning you get the best possible distance and outcome from every swing. How have they done it big? The GT Crown is made from a material never before used in a golf club construction, a proprietary matrix polymer that is 3 times lighter than titanium and allowed them to optimize the CG locations in each model. When it comes to composite drivers, they tend to sound overly dull and they might have a visible seam on the crown. None of that here with the GT drivers. Titleist engineers were able to realize material gains while maintaining their signature player preferred look, sound, and feel in an ultra lightweight, multi material design. The GT head shapes have also been refined to reduce drag and move the club head faster through the air, while the redesigned face construction gives players faster, more consistent ball speeds from heel to toe. Take the GT test drive like we have, and with a few swings, you'll discover what makes GT a driver like nothing before. Please head to Titleist.com to schedule a fitting new you. I think that's the most important thing about it. Just get fit wherever you're at. Go get fit. I'm in love with my GT4. I didn't realize I was going to be a four boy, but that's what I am.
Awesome. We have an interview coming up here with U.S. Captain Stacy Lewis. She, of course, is back after leading the U.S. team last year. Cody said it was a 14-14 tie, though Europe retains the cup. It honestly felt like a European win due to that. And on the European side, you have Suzanne Pedersen back captaining their side. It feels like this year is a tiebreaker of sorts. I am very excited. We mentioned Robert Trent Jones Golf Club, Gainesville, Virginia. It's September 13th through 15th. Cody, you and I are gonna, we're gonna have a lot of stuff the week of the Solheim Cup. We're gonna be on site. We're gonna be doing live shows every day. So I think we have time. We'll save our predictions for a bit closer to the tournament. Um, Anything before we turn it to our interview with Stacy that you want to talk about? I know the one thing for folks that aren't quite aware is just the discrepancy in how these captains seem to go about building their team and how they think about their team. I'll say Stacy Lewis is very into the data, the analytics. Shout out Justin Ray. They are deep in the numbers, and I think on the opposite side, Suzanne seems to be more of an eye test, which I think just makes her a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, you're right there, Big. And I think this is going to be my winning moment here, just how we went about the constructions of these teams. And I want to thank our friends at Mizuho. Mizuho Americas is part of Mizuho Financial Group, the 15th largest bank in the world. They serve corporate and investment bank, serving corporate and institutional clients. They advise and fund businesses looking to go public, raise money, expand operations, or connect with large investors. My Mizuho winning moment is just Captain Suzanne Pedersen for the second time that she is leading the charge for two teams here. Just her steadfast self belief in the eye test and going with her gut. She has put together a squad that I said earlier makes me want to run through a brick wall for him from top to bottom. I don't think she's missing anything out of the team that she's put together. She believes in their personality. She believes on putting strengths and weaknesses together. And honestly, we've heard she's had this team together for the last 2 months.
I
There
know.
is
Yeah.
nothing new here. And as much as we want to say all these picks waited till the very end to that cutoff date, at right after that putt dropped at the old course of St. Andrews, that was not the case for Team Europe. And Captain Suzanne Pedersen knew it. So from top to bottom, it doesn't matter if it's Charlie Hall or Esther Henseleit, who's playing probably some of the best golf in the world right now,
Yeah.
to her captain's picks. I just think that there's something about how she goes about her captaincy. And I know this is the exact same way that she went about her playing career as well, but it's so awesome to see the self-belief that she has not only in herself to actually go out and get that victory this time on US soil, but in the team that she put together. And I truly think unless something drastically changes here, the US is in for a real, real rude awakening. And which I'm thankful and happy to that we got the chance to talk to Stacy Lewis about it.
Yeah. So here's our interview with Stacy Lewis. We asked her, what she learned from 2023, what's going to be different for 2024. She said very firmly last year, Team Europe was favored. I was curious if she would still feel the same way this year. We get into a lot of stuff. She's awesome. Great interview. Cody, we'll see you closer to Solheim.
Pumped.
Joining us now, she's back for another year to captain the United States Solheim Cup team. It is Captain Stacy Lewis. Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today, talking a little Solheim Cup as we get ready for the event. I think, if you don't mind, could we just look back a little bit on 2023? And
Yeah.
the first question, obviously, with the luxury of hindsight, is there anything that kind of sticks with you that you wish you could have changed that was at least within your control?
Not really. I mean, you can say I could have should have changed the singles lineup and put somebody else in a different number, but who knows if that person actually wins a match? There wasn't really anything that sticks out that I would have changed. I wish we could have gotten half a point more. But we also had, Europe had a hole in one. They had a couple of chip ins on us that affected the ends of matches. And so they're really, Europe had to pull off some crazy stuff, especially, coming back from the start that we got off to. There's really not a whole lot I would change.
And just on Team Europe,
Mm.
we did an end of the year wrap up, and we just marveled at Caroline Headwall specifically
Yeah.
in her performance. You've obviously been
Mhm.
in and now captaining a lot of Solheim Cups. Where would you
Mhm.
rank her Sunday singles performance?
The most impressive thing about it is she didn't play a whole lot of golf prior to that. Suzanne Satter, I think the whole first day,
Yep.
played one match because they have to.
Right.
You have to play at least one match going into singles, and so I think that's what makes it most impressive more than anything. And maybe that lit a fire, and that's what you saw. But I mean, you look at stats, you look at the way she had played this year. I don't think anybody would have expected that. The run that she went on there, that back nine. I mean, I thought Allie's match was in the bag. To be honest, I thought if I could get Angel across the finish line and get a full point out of her, I thought we had the thing won. And then unfortunately, Allie's match went the wrong way.
It is a good thing to note. Caroline sat out not only all of day one, but sat out the morning session as well as day two. Didn't come in, paired with Anna. Cheyenne and Angel ended up beating them 2 up. And it was kind of one of those things I remember sitting there talking about, like, oh, is Suzanne trying to hide Carol? Like, this is weird. Like, why would you go out on a limb with one of your captain's picks and then just kind of, yeah, not play him until really
Yeah.
she was forced to? And then all of a sudden it was Sunday, and it felt like Caroline had this tidal wave with her and just kind of pulled everything on that course. But you're right, identifying, when they needed a break, Team Europe, they got that break. Whether it was a hole in one, chip ins, and it felt like, it's weird when there's moments in these big matches where things fall and they can fall either way. At some point in time, I remember turning to Randy and Neil, who I was with on the back nine on Sunday. I'm like, wow, how is everything going their way right now? And it was just the momentum of it. You felt it coming, and still I was confused at the end. I'm like, wait a second, standing on
Yeah.
17 green with Carlota. I was like, wait, what just happened? Like, what are we doing? Anyway, big.
Yeah, I was back on 17T with Lexi, and even Emily was kind of like, what are these guys doing? Like, we still got to finish our match, and I think in her head, like, she had a go opportunity to go, like, they had to go win the cup outright, like, in her
Right.
head, like, let us finish our match. And and that was Lexi too. I said to Lex walking off that tee, I said, let's not let them win this thing outright. And she's like, I got it. And
Mhm.
so there was still something to play for there. It was a little bit strange, the reaction, though. I would agree with you on that.
Right.
It was, well, I can say from a fan's perspective, it was absolutely wonderful theater. I know you didn't
Hmm.
get the result you were looking for necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, it does bring up a great question though. Is that how it should end? Should a cup end like that? And I don't want to put you in a
Yeah.
position of, maybe in a couple months we'll ask you this again, unless you get named for a third captain, which
Oh, no, no, no. I'm not doing it a third time.
Well, you said, I remember you talking on Sunday. You were like, I'm not sure. Should we do a playoff? It was one of those things. You're like, I don't have an answer. Have you? Did you think any more about it, or are you? hypothetically, we don't have to necessarily make it about 2023. Do you kind of lean one way or another?
It's literally the $1 million question. The problem now is you've got history. You've got a way
Yeah.
this is the way we've done it. I think if a change happens, I think it has to happen for both the Ryder Cup and the Solheim Cup. I think it would be
Mhm.
strange to do one and not the other. I think the hypothetical format is alternate shot, send two players out from each team, sudden death.
I love it.
Go out
God,
to
that would be
like
pressure.
15, a lot of the builds, on those events are around
Yeah.
that 14, 15 range.
Yep.
Send them out to 15 and let them go, let them play. I mean, I just think at a team event, you can't just send one person out there. I don't think that's the right way to do it. So I don't know. I think it would have to be a change across the whole sport, though. I think it can't just be us.
It's a lot better idea than me recommending that the captains and vice captains are the ones
Yeah,
that
no.
should play. All right, guys.
No, thank you. There's a reason I'm captain and not playing.
Say, did y'all bring your clubs? Let's get them out. With the 14-14 tie, in your mind, do you kind of look at this year's Solheim Cup as a bit of a tiebreaker?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a carryover to me. Like there wasn't ever really like a finishing point to it. It was because we've been planning for this one prior to playing the one in Spain. So it's like, felt like everything's just kind of kept going and we just kept kind of rolling into it. And yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like if Suzanne and I are doing this again, we left there a tie. And so we get to go settle the score.
I love that you guys are both captaining your
Mhm.
respective teams this year. That continuity, again, just from getting fans excited. I do feel like there's
Yeah.
unfinished business. I'm sure you've thought a lot about this, Stacy, and you've no doubt probably talked a lot about this. But I'm curious, maybe what's the most important thing you learned through the whole thing last year, the 2023 Solheim Cup?
I saw how important the environment is for the players and creating a good environment where they feel comfortable and they're happy and they're enjoying it because it leads to good golf compared to what I've seen at the past few Solheim Cups that maybe in the past not enough emphasis has been put on that, on just creating that not necessarily a team environment, but just an environment where the players can be themselves and not force them to do things or be a person that they're not. And I learned a lot about the stats and diving into players and learning what type of players they are and how you pair them up. I mean, that was the biggest breakthrough to me throughout the whole process.
Cody, we have some stats questions. I think this is a perfect opportunity, perfect segue to lean in there. Can you just talk about we've had a chance. We know Justin Ray pretty well. We've had him on the podcast. He is just such a wonderful guy. Can you tie in, if you don't mind? Can you talk about the role he plays, kind of behind the scenes, his importance, and just how your evolution, I guess, or your relationship with the analytics has evolved through these last couple of years?
I will tell you, Justin, you guys know this. Justin loves stats and numbers more than anyone I've ever met in my
Yeah.
life. I mean, I love numbers and love diving into it, but he loves it a whole lot more than I do. And he's been a great resource just to, throughout the year, he'll just feed us stuff on, hey, this player's doing this or this player's doing that. And just so we kind of just help us pay attention to really how they're playing. I mean, we see scores and finishes, but he spots trends that lead to good golf, a month away or a couple of weeks away and things like that. And I mean, it's been massive. We in the past, we paired people. Julie did personality test. We
Mm.
figured out who were friends. I mean, we were going through all these different methods and nothing related to how they actually played golf. And a lot of the captains, Julie said she wanted, let's send the best putters out an alternate shot. But the numbers show that maybe that's not necessarily the way to do it. And so we've learned what type of players play well and best in each format. Really simple way to put best ball. Don't put two people together that birdie the same holes.
Mm.
Right.
But we've never had the data and the way to filter that data to show us what that is and what that looks like. So, and it makes sense. You look at we've had like the Dow team event where I look at like Nelly and Jess when they played together the one year and they absolutely crushed it an alternate shot, but then they got to best ball and they laid an egg, but it's because they birdie the same holes.
Right.
So it's been fun to learn all that and then to see it kind of play out in real life and see it happen.
I think one of the more fascinating dynamics going back to you and Captain Suzanne Pedersen is she seems very much more, and she says as much. She says, I was a field player and I kind of am doing this by my thoughts and of course the input of her assistant captains and whatnot. But I guess I say all that. It makes such a great contrast of styles. And I think that usually leads to awesome matchups, and certainly in a team environment, this clash of style and not personality, but just attitudes towards approaching it. I'm curious if you've kind of picked up on that
Yeah.
same
Oh
dynamic.
yeah. Yeah, I mean in Spain it was almost, she was trying to almost be the polar opposite of
Right,
me.
right.
I will say some of the interviews we've done this year leading up to this, I think she might be trending the other way as far as stats. And so you guys will have to find out and ask her. But it's yeah, I mean the advantage she also had last year was the more veteran team having some pairings from past years that have worked. The veterans really help you out a lot because they're more willing to pair up with people than first timers are kind of like, I don't really know that person very well, I don't know if this is going to work, where the veterans like, I don't care who you give me, we're gonna figure it out. So having a core like with the Carlotta and Anna, having those kind of players is was really helpful to her, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I just out of curiosity, was there any
Hmm.
decision that you can remember or pinpoint where it was like, I know what the numbers are telling me, but I got to go with my gut here.
Lexi, 100%.
Okay.
She I told her, and I think she'd be okay saying this, but I told her, and we talked in Cincinnati a couple weeks prior. She obviously hadn't been playing very good all year. Numbers showed it. She knew it. And I told her, I said, I think the way you're playing, I'm probably just going to play twice and just play in best ball because I don't think alternate shot is a good place for you to really get into a rhythm and work on your game and to be ready for singles. And she was like, okay, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And she shows up at Solheim, and man, I mean, she was firing on all cylinders. And it was like Monday, every day, like somebody different was coming up to me and saying, man, Lexi's playing so good. Man, Lexi's playing so good. And so I'm like, well, the numbers show that she should not be playing alternate shot, but we got to get her out there. And so Thursday afternoon, she was actually playing with Megan in a practice round. I was on the 16th hole. I said, hey, I'm thinking about sending you guys out first tomorrow. Can you guys figure out a golf ball for alternate shot? And they're like, sure. And so they came off 18. And I said, you guys good? And they're like, yeah, we're good. And that was it. The number of people telling me how good she was playing, knowing who Lexi Thompson is when she shows up at Solheim Cup, it just felt like the right thing to do.
I love that. I can remember Cody and I were, talking to Justin Ray. We would pass him at the course, and one of the main things he would say, guys, Lexi is hitting the ball fantastic. I'm telling you, she's hitting the ball great. And
Which
yeah,
makes
sure
it
enough.
it's funny because you mentioned that as like that was your gut decision, but the stats also back that up. That she was trending, and I remember Justin and you talking about like, no, we've been taking strokes gained data during the practice rounds. I'm like, yeah, but
Hmm.
those aren't
But it's
competitive
practice. Yeah.
competitive rounds. It's so hard to get any data from that. And he's like, no, he's like, you guys, it's gonna happen. Like, and it clearly did. And I want to. I think my question there is, did that feel like a risk at the time, or is that something that like you have? It's your decision and it's what's best for the team. But also, are there people in this system, the Solheim Cup universe, that you have to kind of answer or justify this stuff to?
No, there's
God,
there's
that's
really no one to justify it to. I mean, I I didn't sleep very well the night before, I will tell you that. Like there was so many unknowns. I mean, I had no idea if any of these pairings were going to work out. I mean, all of these pairings, a lot of them were based on, yeah, I mean, I felt like they were right, but it was based on stats and like we had never done this before. So I
Mhm.
literally had no clue. This could completely backfire or this could be great for us. And I sat on that first tee and saw everybody off on Friday morning, and I just watched Lexi and Megan go 1 up, 2 up, and I was
Right.
like, "Okay, I think we found something here,"
Right.
like, so that was that morning session on Friday was just the biggest validation to me of like why I did that, why we spent all the time, why we spent the money on the stats. Like it was the biggest validation to just all the work we had put in.
I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
Well, maybe if we look ahead now to
Hmm.
this year's Solheim Cup, it seems from an outside perspective. Cody and I have actually chatted on some of our recent podcasts.
Hmm.
It feels like your team selection is perhaps a bit more cut and dried this year. Do you have that same feeling, or has it been a struggle to kind of build your roster
Hmm.
out?
I would say there's more players in the mix now than this time last year, actually.
Hmm,
This time last year, my list felt we were kind of down to 13. And this year, I'd say we're probably still at about 15 or 16. And it's changed. I really honestly, I thought the teams were gonna be very similar.
right.
Maybe one person was gonna switch. I mean, that was honestly why I added 2 new assistants is because I wanted this thing to feel different. I didn't want, like, say it was just one new player coming in, they were like the oddball out,
Right.
they're the
Yeah.
only new person. I brought new assistants in just to add some different flair to it, add a different feel to it, and in case there were more players coming in being different too. So, which you've had some not play as well, and then we've had others really step up to the plate and play some great golf.
The things that fans can't see, and really people like Cody and I too that are there, but the great unknown is kind of what goes on behind the scenes in the team room in terms of team building and creating that culture. Obviously the new assistant captains play a role in that. Is there anything else like new that you really want to do this year, maybe week of, let's say?
A lot of the team building and the culture stuff, I think happens ahead of time and throughout the year. I think a lot of the challenge with captains in the past too is they're a lot older and the players don't know them very well, and vice versa. The captains don't know the players very well. And so I've really tried to get to know the players well. And I've had more this time. I've said to them all last year, I said, if you ever want to know where you stand, like come talk to me, I'll tell you where you stand. But no, there could be a positive or negative to it. And I will say I've had a lot more reach out this time of wanting to know where they stand, what they can do better. And that part that allows me to kind of open some doors with them and get to know them better and build some trust there, so that week of, like, I mean, Lexi and I are great friends. I've known Lexi forever, so I knew I could go up to her on Thursday at on
Right.
16 and say that to her. Where other players that if say I didn't know them as well and didn't have a great relationship with them, I couldn't say that to them. So it's really about just me getting to know them, so we can all adjust on the fly. And we're gonna do a cool little trip on Monday afternoon, get them around DC. Being so close to our nation's capital, I want them to understand and really embrace what they're representing. It's not just Solheim Cup, it's not just the LPGA. Like you're representing this country,
Hmm.
and seeing the bigger picture there. So we're gonna, get them away from the golf course a little bit and do something fun on Monday, and then, really from there. This is one of those Solheim Cups. They're going to be at the golf course all day, every day. It's going to
Right.
be, we're leaving in the dark and we're coming back in the dark. So they're going to get plenty of time together.
We talk a lot about course setups and everything else on the
Hmm.
Ryder Cup side, and I meant to ask you this last year because I don't quite know for the
Hmm.
Solheim Cup. Do you get input when it comes to course setup, or is
Hmm.
that basically LPGA tournament operations, normal setup? They kind of handle that stuff.
In the past, the LPGA has tried to stay very neutral and not allow any sort of thing. And I would say this year they've asked more questions to me, because I've had some players go and I've had them track what clubs they hit off the tees, what clubs are hitting into the holes, and I've had some back and forth with the officials just so that the golf course is set up and played the way they see it being played.
Hmm.
But there are some things that I am going to try to get in there that will, Justin has fed me some information on some things that our team does better, that we could, if we keep it in the course setup, that could help us. So I'm trying is
Yeah.
is the answer to that. As I'm trying, they're very hesitant to go as far as the Ryder Cup has gone and saying, I want rough this long or I want the
Right.
greens this speed. They haven't gone that far yet, but hopefully maybe one day.
What type of venue will Robert Trent Jones Golf Club be for folks that aren't really familiar with it? What type of player or what facet of the game do you expect it to maybe favor or challenge? And maybe how different is it from Finca Courtesan last year?
It's very different than Finca. Finca, you had tons of room off the tee. Like your strokes gained driving number didn't really matter there, to be honest. Where this one, it's going to matter how you hit it off of the tee. There's bunkers. I think almost every hole has a bunker in play off the tee. I mean, it's more of a major championship golf course. It's not one where you can just bomb it down there and have a wedge in your hand. One, because there's rough, there's bunkers, but then there's also some trees that are going to
Yeah.
overhang and be in the way at times. So it should, I mean, just the way the golf course plays in general, it should play to the favor of our team. We have a few more ball strikers than Europe does, so it should play to our favor in that aspect. But it's also a very cool piece of property. It's right on Lake Manassas. Pretty much the whole back nine goes all along the lake. Such a cool scene. You got tons of holes that kind of go back and forth. So for spectators, it's going to be awesome as far as being able to see a lot of golf. And it will be a better walk than Finca. It's not
Oh,
as it's got hills,
like
but it's
it
not
couldn't be
as
worse.
severe.
It couldn't be worse. Oh man. All right. Well, if I might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but I remember
Okay.
prior to last year's Solheim Cup, you said you stated flat out that hey, the Europeans are favored; they should be favored.
Mhm.
What's your mindset coming into 2024? Do you want to take that underdog role? How do you view this edition of the Solheim Cup?
I mean, I feel like it's more of a toss up now. I mean, we went over there with 5 rookies and played to a tie. I mean, that in itself is pretty darn impressive. So, but there's also gonna be some challenges in that, a lot of these girls haven't played at home. And because this is way bigger than anything that happens over there, and there's more people involved, they have more families coming, there's more aspect to it that we're gonna have to deal with. I mean, I think we need to win. I really do. I don't like hearing 3 in a row for them. And I definitely don't want to hear 4. So, but I also look back, I mean, you think back to Glen Eagles, literally the last putt decided it. Inverness was probably, if there were 2 or 3 shots at the end that went differently, we could have won that one. Spain, there were tons of shots that could have gone the other way. So, I mean, we're as close as we've ever been, and these things are going to continue to be close. I mean, that's just that it's how good the players are now. There's not for a long time there's a drop off of level of play, I think, from the European side, and it's not there anymore. So it's getting our players over the hump of pulling off those shots instead of being on the other side of it.
All right, this is not really Solheim Cup based, but with it being a President's Cup year on the men's side, we've spent a lot of time just discussing how cool. I don't know if it's a President's Cup that's co-ed, where it's men and women, where it's the U.S. versus the world, or it's a President's Cup type competition where the U.S. could take on. There's such fabulous golfers: Japan, Korea, Thailand, Canada, the rest of the world, etc. Is that something you would like to see in one form or fashion down the road? Is there room for that in the women's game?
Oh, 1000%.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it. I think you see it with the Olympics, like, and you see swimming with the mixed relays. The track and field has mixed relays. I mean, like, why aren't we doing this? And I think it's the biggest, it's a huge miss right now. And honestly, I think more so even than the Olympics, because I think it would be hard in the format and getting players to stay longer and everybody's getting practice rounds. I mean, it would be, unless you played the Olympics in at the same time, like men and women play at the same time, and then you go into a team competition afterwards. But I think President's Cup is the perfect place to do a mixed event. The international team would get way better as soon as you added
Instantly.
those women,
So
like
so much better.
instantly better.
And it would make it more like that's one of the big complaints that you hear from fans
Yeah,
right now is like the US just dominates. It's not that exciting. And
yeah.
yeah, with the
I think
infusion
it'd be
of
awesome.
yeah, I
Well,
know.
I will say one thing is that major kudos to you. Last year, when we're running these big team competitions in back-to-back weeks, I think, a lot of people kind of would have held their tongue and not called out kind of the missed opportunity that having something and more of a joined, combined thing was. And you were the first person to stand up and be like, no, this is the, the game of golf. Everybody who enjoys golf, let alone competitive golf at the highest level, is missing out on a really cool opportunity here. And major kudos for you for not only using the position you were in at the time, but also like your position in the game, and standing up and saying, hey, this is something that we need to look at and be serious about it. um
Hmm.
so thank you
Yeah.
for that.
You can beat your head against the wall and do the same thing over and over again, but like you got to change, you got to adapt. We got to find the ways. We got to play this game faster. We got to make this game more exciting. Like, there's a lot of things we need to do to modernize the game of golf in general, and I think having us play together is the first way to do it.
And that'll do it for this episode. Again, a big thank you to Captain Stacy Lewis. I know she is absolutely fired up to lead Team USA against Captain Suzanne Pedersen and Team Europe at this iteration of the Solheim Cup, Robert Trent Jones Golf Club, outside of Washington, D.C., Gainesville, Virginia, Manassas, Virginia. Who knows? It's outside of the Beltway. It could be a concern traffic wise. Anyway, we're going to be there all week. Big, myself, TC, and we'll have a couple others bouncing around throughout the week. If you're considering attending the event, tickets are still available online. We would love to see as many people out there supporting the event as possible and cheering our LC on. Come on. We're so fired up for LC making this squad, but really, we just can't wait to see another Solheim Cup because we've had so much fun at the last couple playings of them. Anywho, that's it for this iteration. Thanks to Titleist. Thanks to Yeti. Thanks to Mizuho. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.